Hey, and welcome to It's Time to Excel. So, how's your summer been going? Mine's been a little crazy, starting to enjoy some things. Got a little bit of a trip back up to Pennsylvania, had an opportunity to kind of just typical stuff. It's summer. Get out and enjoy some sun, and hopefully, you've been doing that. But let me ask you a question. How's the lazy days of summer treating your budget? Yes, we are back on that topic again. But surprise, surprise, that's what we end up talking about. And we started kind of looking at some different things. So we thought this month, as we were talking about the lazy days of summer and just how that affects our budget, we would take the next couple of weeks and kind of explore budgeting in general. So it often is a four-letter word. And yeah, some of you very well may know what that word is because I've often said it, but we'll put that down the list a little bit as we're talking. So I want you to I'm going to encourage you, come join us each and every week. This one is please, let's take a look at a budget. I think the exact title was, let me remember here. Let me see, I'm going to cheat here and I'm going to dump out of here and I'm going to go see the exact words that I used. You want to enjoy your summer, do you not? Absolutely. Well, to enjoy your summer, let's take a moment and explore how a budget can help you to do that. So first and foremost, what is a budget? Other than a four-letter word, depending what that four-letter word is. But let's talk about it. What is a budget? What in the world are we doing with a budget? And why, as a business owner, is it crucial to your business? Let's just put it this way. Dave Ramsey has a way of saying it. A budget is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Love that quote. Use that quote from him quite a bit. I'm sure many of you have read that quote more than once, have seen it posted, that kind of thing. It's simply basically telling your money where to go so you don't have to wonder where it went. Think about that for a moment. It's your crystal ball. It's as good as you're going to get for a crystal ball for your business. So budget, it could be a crystal ball too. Why do I say that? It's an educated guess about your future finances. That's what a budget is. It's an educated guess. So let's take a moment, because why do we want to do this? Think about this. If we're talking about budgeting, why do we want to spend time creating a budget? Well, one of the things is your business runs more efficiently. If you know your numbers, you guys have heard me say this more than once, when you know your numbers, you can make good, educated decisions. Once again, a budget, just an educated guess. That's all it is. That's bottom line. It's an educated guess. And we're taking the past, looking at things, how they're coming. We're taking a chance to look at the big picture of our business. And then we're going to take an educated guess of what the business looks like in the future. Because as small business owners, you know things are up and down, up and down, up and down. You have good months, you have bad months. It's just a fact of life. So how can we make those peaks and valleys more like rolling hills? That's what a budget's going to do. It's going to help us prepare and minimize when those bad months hit. Because they're going to hit. It's just part of life. It's part of running a business. You're going to have some really, really great months. It's good to know when those months are. And if you know when those months, most of our businesses are probably fairly cyclical. What do I mean by that? It means there's certain times of the years where it does really, really well. Certain times of the years, not quite so well. That's those peaks and valleys. Because, of course, if it's doing well and the revenue's coming in, it's a great month. If revenue's kind of died off a little bit, not such a good month. So they can be sharp peaks and valleys during that time when it comes to your finances. Or we can take a moment and we can try to maybe minimize some of those peaks and put the money towards the valleys so that it becomes more of a rolling hill. And basically, it's going to help us estimate our profits. Because guess what? If we're going to operate, we need to make sure we're at least bottom line in the end result here, we're profitable. Not saying every single month is as profitable as the other one, but ultimately we want to work towards every month being profitable. So it's just that lovely way to get control of your money. And that's why I want to encourage you. Yes, summer's a great time to have some fun. It's a great time to really take a step back, regen, regroup, take a breath. Go enjoy the sun, get out there and do something a little bit differently. But make sure your business is running efficiently while you're there. And you can do that if you have a good budget in place. It is well worth the time and effort. So let's talk about it. And I said today we're going to start by looking at the basic structure of a budget. And each week we're going to kind of add to that. We're going to point out some things so that at the end, you actually have a really good idea of how a budget works, what you need to do to put in it, and how we can make this super simple. Because that's the key. I always say the best system for you need a system. You need a system to better track your money. You got to have a system in place. Of course, my favorite one has been QuickBooks, and that's what I help my clients to do. But you got to use it. The best system is the one you're going to use. So I want to make this simple enough that as business owners, yes, it's part of the deal. And whether we like it or not, we've got to get those systems in place to track our money, but we need to take it one step further. And I do work with my clients to do that, where we can take it one step further. So not only are we tracking those numbers so we know exactly what our numbers are, we're starting to pull that crystal ball in so that we can start looking at making educated guesses, minimizing the tougher months with the good months, and working together to do that. So what's the first thing you need to do? First step on the structure is, you guessed it, revenue. Got to have something to work with. So our first thing that we want to think about is, where's your revenue coming in? Do you have different sources? In my world, it's training, consulting. Is it training? Is it consulting? Or is it bookkeeping in my world? I guess we got a third one here. What is the source of your income? Once we have identified that, because we've tracked it in our system, now we're going to say, okay, here's our income that I expect to come in. I'm basing that off of the past, which has came in. So I'm really starting to examine what my revenues are. I'm taking a look, is there good months? Is there months that are better than others? Is there a trend? Back to the reason of tracking those numbers. A track number grows. That's another comment and quote that is very common. A track number grows. Think about that for a minute. We've got to know what revenue is coming in. Because bottom line is, revenue coming in is revenue going out in the form of expenses. We got to make sure there's months we have more revenue than expenses, or we're not going to be in business long term. So we start by examining our revenues. We figure out what's coming in, when it's coming in, how it's coming in, all of that kind of stuff. And bottom line is, we get it into a very simple, and by the time we get done with this, we're going to take a look at it. It's just going to be a very simple spreadsheet type looking thing. We start with revenue. Grand total. I bring in $1,000 a month. Step one. Easy enough, but we have to look in the back and see what's going on. So we've got to see what is existing, what income is coming in. And once we find that out, now, is that profit? That's not profit. Too often when I start working with new business owners, you start thinking that revenue and profit are the same. They're not. Revenue is all the income coming in, whereas profit is what's left over after all your expenses go out. So keep that in mind. So our first step is, we haven't gotten to the profit number yet because we don't know it yet. Granted, as we start working through this process, we're going to get there. But let's talk about the structure, and a budget can help us to get there and provide us some educated guesswork for the future. So we've got to figure out what our revenues are. Take a look at the last, if you've been in business for 12 months, look at last year. Look at the whole year and make sure that you have the first 7, oh goodness, we're in August, 7 months that are now completed of the current year of information. Start where you're at. Look back at least to the beginning of 2022 and make sure you have a good system in place to track those. So you need to know what revenue is coming in, when it's coming in, which months it's coming in. So we know that. We've got it. We got there. So the next step on the budget, so we're going to take that number, which you're tracking, so you should be able to have, and then we're going to look at our fixed cost. What is a fixed cost? These are costs that are coming in every single month, such as rent, loan payments, payroll. Even as a business owner, I want you to get this one to be a fixed cost eventually. May not be quite there yet. Even if it's a small amount, I want you as a business owner to be taking a paycheck. I don't care if it's a small paycheck, and I'm not caring if you have to put money back in to invest in your business to move it forward. I'm good with all of that. And we can track that and we can code it properly. But we need to know those fixed expenses. What other some things are there? So we talked about rent, supplies. There may be certain supplies that have to come in each and every month in order to run your business. Your payroll, any kind of taxes. Yeah, we got to pay them. insurances. Those are fixed costs in essence. You know what you're going to end up having to spend. And we need to subtract that. So we have our revenue. We subtract out those fixed costs. What's the next piece? The next piece that we're doing is we got to do the variable piece. So you have fixed and variable cost. What's the difference? Fixed are pretty standard. They're going to be the same amount each and every. You got to pay them. It's not going to be negotiable. They're coming in every month, one way or another. Whereas your variables, you have a little control over. Things such as advertising and marketing. Good months, you may be able to do a little bit more. Not so good months, a little bit less. So it depends on how much you're using a service sometimes. So these are any that aren't absolutely necessary to function your business. So let's even take this further. Fixed, look at them as what's absolutely necessary to run your business. The other ones are variable. So we have a little bit of things, maybe professional development, education. Maybe certain months you can do more than others. Thinking about that, but it's variable because you have a little control of that. It's not an absolute to run your business. Now, is it encouraging and is it necessary? Yeah, but we have a little bit more control of that. So professional development, marketing costs, looking at replacing equipment and things like that. Those can be built in as a variable cost because it's going to happen. Office supplies, things like that. And if we come right down to it as the owner, there's some flexibility there too. We're working on that. So during the leaner months, the months that you don't have as much, you can lower those. Whereas in the fixed, they're fixed. They ain't gonna change. They're common, like it or not. So I want you to start thinking about this. So we have revenue, we have our fixed and variable cost, and we subtract those two off. Now we want to subtract something else off to this thing, and that's what we call our contingency. Kind of like your emergency fund. Not really, it's contingency. I call it committed. I don't care what word we use, but basically we have got to start thinking about future expenses. And you know what some of them are going to be. Let's say you pay a yearly fee for something. In 12 months, guess what? The year is up and you get to pay it again. Let's take even one further step. That's one piece of it. That's why I call my committed. But contingency is something more. It's planning for the future. I have to replace my computer every 2 years. Figure out what it is. That's a good example from about 2 years when computers have felt served their lives anymore. But I know that I'm going to have to replace it. So I need to have a contingency. Is it unexpected when it happens? No. This one you actually know. What happens when you go out and you go to start a vehicle and the battery died? Would it not be nice to have a contingency fund to be able to make sure you can pay for the battery so you can replace it and keep moving? Same thing happens in your business. There's going to be unexpected costs. So when we're planning a budget, we want to not just do the revenue and the things we know about. We want to start putting a little bit aside as a contingency. The emergencies, I don't care what we call it. Contingency is usually what I refer to it as. We have those committed ones. We also have this contingency option. Start putting money back. Just little by little. Good months, a little bit more. Lean months, maybe have to juggle that a little bit. But we know that we're going to have unexpected costs. They're not unexpected, they're just inevitable. Just depends when they're going to hit. And they're not going to hit on the time that it's convenient. Just saying. Just like when you go out to start the car and the battery's not working because it didn't like it and it just died. Same thing happens in our business. Things happen. So you least expect them. Minimize some of that pressure and that stress by getting the contingency plan in place. When we do all of this, now we can truly look at a profit and loss statement because now we know the income coming in, our expenses going out. We've even prepared for a little bit of a contingency, so I'd like to even throw that in there. But let's see what our profit and loss is. More revenues and expenses, more expenses than revenue. Bottom line. Profitable means you had more revenue than expenses. Loss, you guessed it, more expenses than revenue. So thinking about that, once we get our P&L and we've got in there, so we know that. We also know our contingency plan, what we're working with. So out of our profit, contingency, I always like to kind of look at the big picture. So now we're getting all of these pieces together because now we can take a look at the future. I can look at the past, look at the trends, see the revenues and expenses that are coming in. I know have a good handle on what they are. I can take a look, and if I have $5,000 coming in each and every month, and I have $7,000 of standard expenses that are going out in my budget, and I'm looking at them, that might be a problem. But maybe, just maybe, when I see that and I know, what can I do? I can fix something if I know about it. You now know about it. So now you can operate your business more efficiently because you know what's coming up. Do you have an expense that's going to hit in December? And you start looking in that, oh, I'm going to hit that. Why not have that built in each and every month? I'm always encouraging. If it's $1,000, let's use $1,200. We're going to make things simple math here today. $1,200 every single year. Take $100 out a month. Put it aside. Put it in a separate account. So when that $1,200 comes, it's okay. Unexpected costs, expected costs that are a year later, things like that. By looking at our numbers and taking the budget. So our budget, let's take it back to its fullest simplicity. Revenues, what came in, expenses, what went out. I take those numbers and I look forward. I can educate a guest assume that if my business stays standard, that the same revenues will be coming in, the same expenses are going to be coming in. I can start tweaking those numbers. An Excel spreadsheet works very well. If you're using QuickBooks Plus, there is a budget feature built in. If you'd like to learn more, make sure you reach out, do chat with Janet, and come talk to me about that. You may have some features and functionality in your system, your tracking system in QuickBooks that you didn't even realize that you had. It's definitely worth the conversation, and I would love to have that with you. But I want you to take a step back, and I want you to take and look at those numbers that we have been tracking. Get your revenues and your expenses fixed and variable. Break them out so you know. And let's think about what we're going to need for contingency so that we can start making a good, educated guess. That's not that difficult. It is simple. I never said easy, but it is simple. And I want to encourage you to do that. Have a wonderful day. And I look forward as we continue through the month of August. We are going to be really diving into budgeting and seeing the benefits, why it's important, how simple it become, and little tips and tricks along the way that I have learned so that you can run your business more efficiently going forward. I look forward to seeing you, and make sure you come and join us next week as we continue on the lazy days of summer and exactly how they are affecting your budget. Have a great day.